Welcome to the Successful Nonprofits Bonus Break. I'm your host, Dolph Goldenberg. The bonus break is a short episode you can listen to while taking a coffee break and get the added bonus of making you and your nonprofit more successful. Produced as a companion to our longer Successful Nonprofits podcast, the bonus break covers all of the topics you care most about: professional development, fundraising, governance, board relations, marketing, tech, and more. This is part 9 of a bonus break series focused exclusively on strategic planning. They can all be listened to as standalone episodes, but if you want to listen to the others, you can download them at successfulnonprofits.com, or you can visit the Successful Nonprofit blog, where we have serialized these bonus breaks as a series of blog posts. And in each of those posts, you can also download additional content. So this bonus break is going to answer 2 critical questions, and those questions are the ones that I get all of the time from nonprofit executives and board members. The first is always, what do you charge for strategic planning? And then the second is always, what is your role as a strategic planning consultant? Now, the person typically asks the money question first and the role question second, but I always answer the question about the consultant's role first. And the reason is the role that your consultant plays in strategic planning will ultimately drive how much they charge for a quality product. So if we're going to start with the role of the strategic planning consultant, there are essentially 3 main models for strategic planning consultants. One is the consultant as facilitator, the second is a consultant as planner, and then the third is a consultant as both a facilitator and a planner. So it's kind of a hybrid model. Now, in the consultant as a facilitator model, that first one, the consultant merely facilitates the strategic planning process, and the core group, what I call the work group, does pretty much all of the work. So the facilitator provides a general structure, offers tools and templates and project management, and the work group is fully responsible for the environmental scan, preparing the documents to be shared at the board retreat, drafting the final product, etc. Now, this is often the least expensive form of strategic planning consulting because all of the heavy lifting is done by the work group. I will also share with you that an organization's board and volunteer leaders have to be operating at a very high level and have a great deal of additional time in order to participate in a process where the consultant is only a facilitator. Now, the next model is the consultant as planner. In this model, the consultant is just that. They're the primary planner. So they actually do all the work in conducting the environmental scan. They prepare for the board retreat. They write the plan following the board retreat. Again, they pretty much do everything except, board members have to show up at a board retreat and participate. Now, keeping in mind that a couple hundred hours go into the process of really drafting your strategic plan, but in the model that we've talked about throughout this process, there's a work group that's doing a lot of that work. So if you're going to have a consultant that's going to do 200 to 300 hours of work, that also becomes the most expensive strategic planning consulting option. And I'll share with you that I believe this model really does not engage the organization's leadership so that they have sufficient buy-in to the plan's success. And I am certain that it never strengthens the organization's capacity. So the organization never stretches itself. Board members never stretch themselves to learn more about the organization and to really do a lot of the heavy lifting in the planning process. And as a consultant, while I could make more money doing all of the planning work myself, I do not ever use this model because I just don't think it's good long-term for the organization. And the last model is that hybrid model, and that's the consultant as a facilitator and a planner. And this is the most common type of strategic planning consultant, and it allows the organization to rise to its planning abilities while also knowing that a consultant will help them and actually do the work that it just cannot do. Within this hybrid model, though, there are many different options for assigning work between the consultant and the organization. For this reason, when I pitch work, I typically offer 3 different work share options to a prospective client. And this allows them to determine how much work they have the capacity to do while leaving the rest of the work for me as the consultant to do. So once you fully understand the three different models to strategic planning consulting, then it is fair to ask the question, how much will my nonprofit organization pay for a strategic planning consultant? This is without a doubt the most common question I get, and my answer is always, it depends. It depends on the consultant you choose and how they value their time, and it also depends on which of the strategic planning consulting models that you want to go with. But as a good ballpark, most organizations should expect to pay between about $10,000 to about $35,000 or $40,000 for a good strategic plan product. Now, just to kind of share with you where I'm at in terms of how I price my work, a prospective client recently asked me for a strategic planning proposal, and as I said, I typically give three options, and those options ranged in price from $13,500 to $21,500. And in case you're interested in knowing, the middle option was $17,750. Now, I always give a little bit of bonus content on the blog, and on the Successful Nonprofits blog, I also included detailed information about the services within each of those three options. So if you're curious, what does 13.5 get you versus what does 21.5 get you, you can go to the Successful Nonprofits blog and actually see the specific deliverables that you get in each. Now, the prospective client came back to me and they were genuinely agonizing over the cost that I presented in the proposal. They knew that they wanted the deluxe package, but they had also received three other quotes. So one was at $5,000, one was at $6,000, and the other was at $15,000. Before I go on and say any more about the cost of a consultant, let me first say a word about the consultants who offered to quote unquote do a strategic plan for $5,000. Ideally, you want a consultant with the skills and abilities to earn a six-figure income as a nonprofit executive. And a consultant with the ability to earn that kind of money as an employee would be very unlikely to charge just $5,000 for strategic planning. And the one exception to this rule is if someone who was an accomplished nonprofit executive and it just started off as a consultant. So they may discount some work during their first year as a consultant to build a client list and a reputation. I certainly did some of that my first year as a consultant, and I'm glad I did because it's part of how I got my first clients. In general, however, strategic planning is much like hiring a contractor to renovate your bathroom. First, you decide how much of the work you can do yourself. Maybe you want the contractor to do everything, or maybe you'll save some money by pulling the permit yourself, doing the demo on the bathroom, and taking care of those finishing touches like painting walls, installing towel racks, those types of things. And then you look at the skill of the contractor who you're thinking about maybe having to renovate your bathroom. And you probably would not hire the person who offers to renovate your entire bathroom for $2,500 because you know that they're just not going to do a good job. You probably know, hey, if I want a decent bathroom, it's probably going to cost $15,000 to $25,000, and someone who says they're going to do it for $2,500 is not going to give me the product that I want. And so while my price points typically range on strategic planning between $13,000 to about $25,000, as I said earlier, most organizations should anticipate paying at least $10,000 and no more than $35,000 or $40,000 for a qualified strategic planning consultant. Again, though, I just cannot say this enough. It all depends on how much work you are willing to do as an organization and how much work you want your consultant to do. So those are the answers to the two most commonly asked questions. How much will this cost? And what is your role as a consultant? The next bonus break will be the last one in this series. And we are going to discuss how to overcome the most common objections to strategic planning. This bonus break and the Successful Nonprofits podcast is produced by the Goldenberg Group as part of our mission to provide board development, strategic planning, and interim leadership to help nonprofits thrive in a competitive environment. Be sure to visit our podcast website at successfulnonprofits.com or find me, Dolph Goldenberg, at goldenberggroup.com on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. And if you think your organization is ready to begin strategic planning, then reach out to me. We are recording this in spring 2018, and I am currently booking new engagements to begin midsummer. Thanks so much for joining us for this bonus break, and I hope you gained insight to help your nonprofit thrive in a competitive environment.
I am not an accountant or attorney, and neither I nor the Goldberg Group provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. This material has been provided for informational purposes only, is not intended to provide, and should not be relied on for tax, legal, or accounting advice. Always consult a qualified, licensed professional about such matters.